Hi, I'm Lori, and this is GLP-1 Journey in Review. Today, we're doing a video in my interview series where we talk to people about their weight loss journeys. I happen to have a YouTube creator on today, so we'll also talk about that and anything else that they may want to talk about. So I just want to tell people if you find this useful at all, please hit that like and subscribe button. It really does help. And Shanda's channel, Life According to Self, will be linked down below in the description. So afterwards, please check out her channel, like and subscribe. Again, it really does help. I want to remind everybody that we are not healthcare providers. I am not one. My guest is not one. This is just what works for us. And hopefully, you'll get some information or some entertainment out of it. So, Shanda, why don't you give yourself a little introduction?
Hi, everybody. My name is Chanda, as Lori just said. And first, I want to say, Lori, thank you so much for having me on. I love your
Thank you.
interviews. I think that hearing about other people's experiences is a great help, especially when you're either first starting out or you need to make some kind of adjustment. So, thank you for doing this. I think it's very
Thank you.
helpful. I am 54 years old and I will be 55 this year. And I started my weight loss journey on February of this year, and I was weighing 270.2 pounds. And I am 5'5", so I'm short. And
Mhm.
so I've been on my journey with Zepbound now for the past 5 months, and I am down 56 pounds today.
Okay.
Yeah, super exciting. And this whole weight thing was not always a problem for me. Over the past 11 years, I have had this extreme issue with this obscene weight gain. And when I started to gain weight, I did not know what to do with that because I never had to have an exercise regimen. I never had to monitor my food choices. So I just kept getting bigger and bigger. So I ended up at the 270 pounds, which was just way too much for the size of my body.
So, you're on Zepbound, correct?
I was on Zepbound. And unfortunately, okay, I started out on Zepbound, of course, at the lowest dosage, which is the 2.5. I did that for the first month. And then I went up to the 5 milligram the following month, and then up to the 7.5. And I have been on that ever since. However, I am one of the participants that has gotten caught up in the CVS care mark.
Oh,
Yes, yes. And I am so upset about it. But uh so Monday was my first time taking the Wegovy shot.
hmm.
You don't have a choice at this point. And that's what's really frustrating is that these insurance companies, they just kind of made the choice for you. And
That's
unless you want
terrible.
to, isn't it? Unless you want to pay completely out of pocket, you're kind of at their mercy. So Zepbound was absolutely an amazing experience for me.
Mhm.
I did not have these over crazy side effects. Um, it was like being my normal self. And the switch to Wegovy is very, very concerning, and I'm actually scared about it.
I can understand that, but we got to do it. We have to do. Have you considered compound?
Well, actually, I spoke to my doctor about the compound option, but what she said was she doesn't think the compounding option is going to be available much longer. So she would hate for me to get on that and then eventually have to switch anyway. So she had really good things to say about Wegovy. So I said, okay, I'm going to trust your judgment and I'm going to go ahead and move forward with it. So as I stated, my first shot was yesterday and I feel great, but I feel different.
Mhm.
And the reason I say that is because with Zepbound, I had no feelings of anything abnormal. But with Wegovy, I have like dry mouth. Uh, I feel slightly jittery, but nothing I can't deal with. So I'm just kind of noting all of my different changes with this new Wegovy. So that is my situation as of now.
Well, let's get into a little bit of that because I'm sure you're not the only person in that situation. Did they put you on the lowest dose of Wegovy like you were starting over?
Yes, they did. And I wanted
That's
to,
probably a good thing.
yeah, it is, but I wanted to cry because I was already at the 7.5. It was working
Mhm.
great for me. So having to go all the way back down to the lowest dose, it made me feel like I was starting over again. But technically, I'm not because I've learned and I've already lost so much weight and I've learned so many things along the way. So even if I am at a lower dose, I can still apply all of those things that I've learned and it shouldn't be too much of an issue. At least I'm
Now,
hoping not.
now, is there some sort of waiting between, like some people have told me that their doctors have told them to wait 2 weeks or 4 weeks to get the tirzepatide out of their system before they switch to Wegovy, or did you just go?
I just went direct. I went direct. My doctor said it should be fine. In fact, when I picked up my first prescription for Wegovy, the pharmacist wanted to talk to me about it to make sure that I wasn't taking the tirzepatide anymore.
Right.
But he said it's absolutely fine just to start whenever your normal shot day is. So that's what I did, and I haven't had any issues so far. Of course, it was just yesterday, but I feel
Uh-huh.
great.
Well, that's good. And like I said, starting at the lower dose hopefully will prevent you from having some of the side effects as you build it up in your system.
Well, that's the idea. Although I was willing to take my chances, I was, but the doctor said, "No, no, no. Let's just, you'll be okay. Just start over. We want to make sure your body can become acclimated slowly to the new medication." So I said, "Okay." And then I also talked to my dietitian too, and because she works for CVS Caremark, she said
Hmm.
hundreds of people have made this change and they, the majority of them have, acclimated okay. So I have faith in the process. I know it's going to be different, but just like with any weight loss journey, there are bumps along the way.
Absolutely.
So just, take it in stride and do the best you can because I don't want this to be a defining moment in my journey to whether or not I'm going to be successful or fail.
Right. Right.
So as I always say, this journey is mine to win or lose. And I can definitely take a negative outlook. It's easy to do, but I decided I was going to be positive. So that's the decision.
That that's great. So did you have any problems like high blood pressure or high cholesterol when you started this journey, or was it
I
strictly weight?
I was on the verge of just about everything. Yes, I
Mhm.
had high cholesterol and still do, and I'll tell you about that here in a few moments. But I was pre-diabetic.
Mhm.
My cholesterol is extremely high, so dangerously high, actually. And I'm hoping that I'm not going to have to go on any cholesterol medication, but my doctor's thinking that I'm doing so well, eventually it will go down. Also, I have osteoporosis.
Mhm.
And the doctor said that even with this GLP, that it will help that because Zepbound is also known for bone formation. So we're
Good
gonna
to
try
know
to
that.
get yeah, we are gonna try to get an exception to get back on Zepbound because of that very
And
thing. And of
uh,
course, I have
uh,
sleep apnea also. And this has helped with all of those things. I just had blood work done the other day, and I'm no
Uh-huh.
longer in the pre-diabetic range.
Oh, yay. That's
Yay, I
great.
know. I'm so excited about that. I want to be around Lori.
Mhm,
I have a son, and we have a very small family. So it's just him and I.
mhm.
Uh, and I want to be around for him. And
Absolutely.
and because I want that, I can no longer treat my body the way that I was treating it. And Zepbound has really aided me in that, and I'm so
Mhm,
grateful for the effectiveness that I've experienced with Zepbound. It's given me a whole new outlook, and I can do it. I can do this.
mhm.
And I can do everything that I need to do to make sure I'm doing my part so I can be a part of my son's life as long as possible.
That's great. At least your insurance is covering it. A lot of us aren't in that boat.
I am very lucky for that. I am very grateful also. And I know a lot of people don't have that option. And I was thinking, what do they do? It's like you have to, sell cans and stuff to make sure you get your fund together, because that's a lot of money outside of your normal budget. So
Yep.
yeah, I'm grateful, and I feel bad for people who don't have insurance coverage. So
Yeah,
that's
I had to
unfortunate.
readjust some stuff to get the compound, but, to
So
me,
what
it
are
was
you
worth it.
so what are you going to do when the compound, or if the compound is no longer available?
Well, from what I'm hearing from people, a lot of them think that this is more for the next generation of GLP-1 medications
Mm,
because the court dates and stuff, they're gonna take a while. It's not like, oh, tomorrow you can't do it because deadlines have already passed and they're still doing it. So,
right,
in
right.
my favor, the legal system is working slow.
Hmm.
Plus, I do have like a 6-month stockpile just in case.
Oh, good. That's
Uh,
awesome.
and if I have to, I will go to Lilly Direct because I think it's important. And I'm on maintenance, which helps. And don't tell the companies that I use, but I order a higher dose so that it lasts longer,
Okay.
and don't use that high dose. Um, Plus, I'm hoping that within the year orforglipron will be available, and I think for me that may be perfect because it's a daily pill and it's not quite as strong, but it's
Mm,
a daily pill, so hopefully it'll be a nice even thing because I'm on maintenance and I don't really need to lose any more. So,
okay.
that's my hope.
So you're in a good position at this point.
Yeah, I try, it's like I said, if I have to, I will go to Lilly Direct because I don't know about you, but I'm kind of considering I'm going to be on some form of GLP-1 or till something else comes around for the rest of my life.
I am in complete agreement with you. I have had this internal dialogue with myself as well. And it's okay if I have to be on it for the rest of my life, then I'll do that, just like with any other medication that people take in order to make themselves the best selves they can be. Then if it takes
Mhm.
that, then it takes that, and I'm okay with that as well. Now, it might come a time when insurance either doesn't cover it, or it's going to get cheaper as time moves forward.
Right.
Whatever the case, I'm going to be a part. If I have to have a little side gig to make sure I can afford it, then that's what I'll do as well.
I mean, we got to do what we do because now we know that this works. We see how great we feel. Who would want to give that up?
Nobody. I know I don't. I don't, because my life has changed. I
Mhm.
am doing things that I thought I was never going to be able to do again. I feel like I never thought I'd be able to feel again. So it is definitely worth it. Whatever I need to do, I will maintain it.
Absolutely. So, what was your like aha moment that made you decide to start with the GLP-1 medication?
There were a couple of things, there were some minor things. For example, and this is like silly, but true. I have a shower that is free, like it's by itself. It's not a part of the tub unit. It's
Mhm.
just separate, and then the tub is separate. And as time went on, it started feeling like the shower was closing in on me. The space was getting a little bit less and a little bit less. And I was like, oh my God, this is awful. But the defining moment was I was in Kroger one day and I was shopping, as usual, pushing the cart, and my back was in so much pain. I felt like I could not take one more step. And I stood there for a long time. I got to the point where people are like, "Are you okay, miss? Do you need help?" And I just said, "No, I'm fine, thank you." But I was terrified because it felt like my back was just going to collapse under the pressure.
Mhm.
So I left my basket and I walked out to my car. And when I sat down, I was just like, "Oh God, what a relief." At that very moment, I thought to myself, I cannot continue this way. And I don't want to live my life being in pain like this.
Right.
So at that very moment, when I got home, I started looking because there's a lady at the gas station up here. She's lost tons of weight on Ozempic. So when I got home, I said, let me look on YouTube and see what's happening with these weight loss medications. And there were so many helpful videos, information. So after I did that for a couple of weeks, I started writing down all of my possibilities. And then I made an appointment with my primary care, and my journey began at that moment. My body was not in good shape, not only due to the pressure of the weight, but also the pre-diabetes, the high cholesterol. I had inflammation that was out of this world. Sometimes I wake up and my face would just be all swollen. And I'd go to the doctor, she'd give me a Z-Pack, it would go away until the next time. And that's kind of what happened. And when I sat in the car that day from Kroger, I like had tears streaming down my face because I was 54 and thinking I may have a good 30 years left, hopefully, God willing. And I don't want it to be this way. So
Mhm.
I have to do something. So that was the defining moment for me.
So did your physician, was he educated on the GLP-1? Because a lot of them aren't.
No. This is new for all of them, I think, as well as it is
Mhm.
for us. And what she did know was she has some patients that were doing very well on Zepbound. So she
Mhm.
said, I'm going to recommend Zepbound for you. I think that would be the best option. However, let's do some blood work and stuff and see, because other GLP-1s require you to have a comorbidity. So I was like, it's like, I was thinking, oh my God, I hope the numbers are high. As shameful as that sounds, but
I
that's
know
what
it's
I
normal how we think that way.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But then when the numbers came back, she was like, well, you are pre-diabetic. You do have sleep apnea. So you cannot get on Manjaro, she said, because it requires you to be diabetic. So Zepbound at this point is our only option. So I said, whatever you are recommending, I'm going to move forward with that. So I was happy. I was, bouncing to the car after my appointment because I was thinking today's the first day of the rest of my life. And she put in the prescription, and I went to pick it up like the next day, and they said it would be $1,100. And I said, no, excuse, I was like, excuse me, how much now? And she said $1,100. And I said, no, ma'am. I said, my insurance said it would be $313. And she said, well, yeah, I don't know why they told you that. It's 1,100. So of course I didn't pick it up. And I came home, called my insurance company, It turns out they require you to enroll in a weight loss management program through
Hmm.
CVS before they will approve covering it. So I had to do that. I had to join something called Health Optimizer, and that's through
Right.
CVS. And I have to see a dietitian through CVS Caremark once a month. I have to track my food intake, my fluid intake, and my weight loss in order for them to continue to cover it. So once I got enrolled in that, it took about 2 to 3 days to become effective, and I was able to go and pick it up for the $313.
Now, when you went to your physician, because I know a lot of people ask me this, how did you approach him to that you wanted a GLP-1? Did you just come out and ask, or was there like, did
My
you have to?
doctor is amazing. And like I told you earlier, I kind of went on YouTube and I knew what avenue I wanted to go.
Okay.
So when I got into the doctor's office, I said, Doc, I've been doing this research. I know that these are the options. How do I go about getting on one of these? And
Hmm.
she kind of started going through with me what her experience has been with her patients that are currently on GLP-1s. And we concluded that Zepbound would be the best choice. She didn't give me any pushback. She didn't say, well, maybe you should try to do it on your own. She didn't say any of that. She was right there locked up with me. And if that's what you want to do, she was very supportive of it. She just said, let's make sure your numbers are okay.
Awesome. Now, when you started, did you have any side effects?
Lori, I have been so lucky. I
Me
haven't
too.
really, I haven't had any side effects. I mean, there've been minor things. For example, the first side effect that I noticed was being cold all the time.
Well,
And I couldn't figure this out to save my life, why I was so cold. And I was even going out in the backyard and sitting for a little while just to kind of warm up, and the top part would be warm and my bottom part would still be cold. So I went through that for a couple of weeks. When that subsided, I was fine. And then the next side effect I noticed was I was having irritation at the injection site. It was like a mosquito bite, like a very annoying one. And it would last for about 3 or 4 days until I took my next shot. So it didn't matter where I injected, the irritation would show up, which is fine. I mean, minimal,
mhm.
right? I can deal with that. And then that continued. That never went away once it started. And then the next side effect that I noticed, which is very strange, is after I would eat a meal, my nose starts to run. And it runs for about 30 minutes and then it stops. So now I'm dealing with this weird phlegm thing. I have phlegm all the time. And the doctor said it's because of my nasal drip, but it's
Mhm.
it's really gross and I can't seem to get rid of it to save my life.
Hmm.
Outside of that, no other side effects. So I've been very, very lucky.
Do you rotate your sites, or do you have a preference of a site?
Absolutely. Let me tell you what happened initially. I got very comfortable with injecting in my stomach.
Hmm.
So when I first started, that's the only injection site that I would use. Of course, I go from left to right, but outside of that, it was comfortable. That's what I did, and it worked for me. When I titrated up to 5 milligram, it wasn't working anymore. And I couldn't figure out why. My appetite suppression wasn't there. And again, YouTube's amazing. So I went to YouTube and kind of looked at other people talk about injection sites. And I said, oh, you're supposed to rotate. So once I
Hmm.
started rotating, it was a game changer. appetite suppression was amazing. And I thought to myself, boy, I wasted like 2 or 3 weeks because I didn't realize that. So what I do is I go back of the arm, thigh, thigh, stomach, stomach. So that's how I rotate when taking my injection.
Do you do the back of your arm yourself, or do you have somebody do that?
I do it. I go like this and do it myself.
Yeah. I'm sure it's easier with a pen than with the syringe on
Oh,
compound.
absolutely. It is no problem at all. It's like no problem. And now that my arms are thinner, I can actually I can actually do that. And that's one of the best things I think about losing weight is these things like crossing your arms feels great
Little
now
things.
instead of, or crossing your legs. You can actually cross your legs and leave them crossed for a while. Just simple things like
Absolutely.
that have been amazing and makes you feel so good. And who knew something so simple would have give such a dopamine blast, but it does. It does.
So
I
you were
love it.
saying before that you had to track to get the insurance. Are you still tracking everything?
Absolutely. I have to track everything I do because when I meet with my dietitian, she kind of looks over my entries because she, has to give me suggestion as far as maybe you're eating too much of this or your carbohydrates are too high. So yes, every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner is tracked, not only the time that I'm eating, but what I'm eating, how many calories. I have to actually break down everything that's included in my meal so she can do what she needs to do for the insurance company.
So you're obviously seeing a dietitian, which I probably think myself included, more people should. How
Yeah.
has that helped your journey?
She's great. She's great. She kind of gives me insight as to what different foods are doing for example, for blood pressure and insulin, all of these things. So she's able to help me with that. She tells me, well, maybe you should add more tofu to your diet in order to get your protein intake up. So it's been great. I value her input. She has shared things with me that I didn't know as far as cholesterol, even. And she said, even though you have good cholesterol and bad cholesterol, there are so many other markers to take into account. So I did not know that. So what she suggested is that I go to my doctor and have them do a comprehensive cholesterol test instead of just the standard. So that will let us know exactly what's happening and what we need to do to rectify it.
I know one of the reasons why I don't is because they always want you to meal prep. And like I work between 50 to 60 hours a week at my
Oh,
regular
wow.
job. And then I do YouTube. And I mean, we all know how, it looks very easy to do YouTube, but it's a lot
But
more
it's
time
not.
consuming. It's a lot more time consuming than a lot of people think. And, fortunately for me, I live in a retirement community and there's just tons of places that have, like deli style pre-made meals that are pretty healthy, it's because like I like their turkey loaf and like they don't put anything unnatural in it. They've told me, what they put in it and so forth, but I don't have to make it. I could just buy, a little loaf and have that for 2 or 3 days for lunch. I don't have to meal prep. The same thing with their grilled chicken and their like grilled salmon, so I could just take that and don't have to worry about it. Do they push meal prepping on you or?
No, however you can, no. She never says anything about that. However, with this new opportunity that I was afforded with the GLP-1 medication, I told myself that I was going to do everything in my power to aid in this weight loss journey. I've been on so many diets in the past, Lori. I've had some successes with most of those diets, but my problem comes with maintaining it. So I look, when after I had that experience in Kroger's parking lot, I say, God, please just give me one more chance, and I promise I'll do the right things. So with this opportunity, I said I was going to do everything in my power. And that means eating well. That means cutting down or eliminating any processed foods.
Mm,
I stopped drinking alcohol. And that was a difficult one for me because in my household, we do believe in a cocktail hour. So that was very difficult. But I meal prep. I believe that is for me in my journey,
mm,
that is, you must. It's a must do. Because for me, if I don't have something readily available that is a good food choice, I have been known in the past to reach for the things that aren't good for me. And I
mhm,
know that about myself. So I have to have good food choices readily available. So when I'm hungry, I just go grab it, throw it in the microwave, or, stir
right.
fry it up really quick, whatever the case. But meal prep is very important in my journey.
Mhm,
I have become a pescatarian through
mhm,
over this 5 months, and I slowly adopted that. I said that I was going to cut out all meats outside of seafood. So I do not eat beef, pork, chicken, lamb, anything like that. All fresh vegetables, and I make everything myself. I don't go out to eat. I haven't been out to eat in 5 months. So
mhm,
that has been a major change for me, and it is very time consuming. So I agree with you on that. It is very time consuming, but I have made myself a promise that I was going to put me first. And in putting me first, that means meal prepping to
mhm.
make sure I can be the healthiest me I can be and help this GLP-1 to do its job.
Right. I mean, I started meal prepping, but like I said, then we keep losing people at work 'cause since the pandemic, healthcare just
Oh,
we're
mhm.
losing people left and right. And like I said, since it's like fresh made, like a restaurant, and they're telling me what's in it, a little bit of trust there. I just
Right.
like get a couple meals to go for lunch. Unfortunately, that's what I have to do. I too was eating like 90% seafood because I live in South Florida and seafood is abundant here.
Yes.
Um, but like I said, sometimes I have to have the chicken or turkey loaf for lunch. I do have a lot of just steamed shrimp, things like that, and I do either through these places or through like Whole Foods get um, salmon, just
Mhm.
usually steamed salmon or grilled salmon with
Yeah.
basically nothing on it. So got to make what works because I just can't stay up till 11 o'clock at night meal prepping and then be back at work at 5. Yeah.
No, I completely understand. Typically what I do is on Saturday or Sunday, depending, I will spend half of that day meal prepping. And that has been my everyday routine since this journey began. And it
That's great.
worked for me. I mean, as far as if I get up really early and go grocery shopping on Saturday morning, I can typically be done with meal prep by like 1. And then I have the rest
Awesome.
of my day to do laundry, this regular weekend stuff.
Right.
But sometimes I don't want to do it. I mean, for certain, I have those weeks. But I'll say, Shanda, well, here you go again. You're getting into your old habits. Get up and just go do it. So that's how I have to talk myself into doing it and remind myself that you have a bad habit of getting back into the same bad routine. So it is a mental journey as well as a physical
Mhm.
one, you
Oh
know,
yeah.
having to rethink and relearn things that you've done for so long is not an easy task. So I have to constantly be talking, having internal dialogue in order to continue positively with this journey.
So what were some of the other diets, especially the crazier type of diets that you were on before?
I've done back in the day when Fin came out. I was on Fin
Hmm.
and it worked. It worked, and it was great because basically it was nothing but methamphetamine really, and it was great. I was like cleaning the house until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, losing weight. So, but then they said, okay, well, you could potentially have a heart problem with Fin, so you need to get off. So that was a bummer. So I got off of that, and then of course had weight gain, and I've been on Weight Watchers several times. I've had Nutrisystem packages delivered like 3 or 4 times over the past 10 years. And those programs are good, but
Hmm.
I've done Lindora. I did that for a couple of months, and that worked as well. But my problem was any diet that you choose to go on will work if you do the right things. The problem is, though, when you don't relearn
Right.
how how to feed your body. You don't relearn that you do need to have a regular exercise regimen. So while these programs all work, if you're not doing the mental work, you're going to be right back in the same boat. And that's where I found myself time after time after time. So that's why this time I'm trying to relearn things. So, say for example, GLP-1 is taken away from me for some reason. I don't want to be back in that same boat. So, I'm trying to relearn good habits and stay steadfast in what I told myself I was going to do. And it's difficult because relearning
Oh yeah.
patterns that you have had for 20, 30 years is not easy.
Well, one good thing with the GLP-1s is it's not really a diet, it's a lifestyle. Where
Yes.
the others were definitely, Nutrisystem and Weight Watchers were all definitely diets. And one of the biggest problems with them is, if you get to your goal weight, how do you maintain? And obviously, maintenance fails because we're right back to where we are now.
Hmm.
If they worked and the maintenance worked, we wouldn't be here right now.
That's right. That's right. And
And
Lori, the best thing I think that I've learned so far through this journey is that you don't have to be deprived of
no,
good food. And it's something I so wish I had learned years ago. But for some reason, I just didn't give myself the opportunity to do the research that was necessary in order to learn that. And it's something that I have learned during this journey, and it is just great because I've learned to make so many good tasting dishes that are actually good for you. So you don't have to be angry because you can't eat anything that tastes halfway decent
right.
anymore. You can really make stuff that you're satisfied, and not only that, but you can share it with other people and they also think it's good. So if they're in your
Right.
household with you, they'll enjoy it too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, I think maintenance is a problem. I think maintenance is still a problem with GLP-1. For me, I'm on maintenance. I've been on maintenance since January. It's been like the hardest part of this journey, only because there really isn't a set guideline. A lot of doctors will say where you stop, that's what you should be on. But, I don't want to keep losing weight. And,
Right.
so we either have to work out less, which doesn't make sense, or have more calories. And I don't want the calories to be, ice cream or wasted calories. I mean,
Yeah.
so I've slowly put a little bit of carbs back in, but again, I was on my highest dose. I can't eat as much. So, I was still losing weight. So, again, no guidance really, so I kind of went
Right.
down a little bit. and I'm still trying to figure out what's best because if you go down too much, you start getting the food noise and start gaining. Uh,
Yeah.
do you do you like spread them out over time a little bit longer? Again, it's a learning process. I think we'll get there, but
Hmm.
I really wish that these, Eli Lilly, or Novo Nordisk would have had some sort of guidelines, because even when you get on the medication and you go through your regular physician, they say 1 month 2.5, 1 month 5, 1 month 7.5. I don't really agree with that, but at least it's a plan. They didn't really have a plan for maintenance. So for me, that's been the hardest part.
How much have you lost, Lori?
I lost 62 pounds.
Wow, that's great.
And
Congratulations.
you know, my goals changed in my journey because first I was only going to take the medication just to kind of like jumpstart diet. And then when I realized, hey, it's working so well and, I've made it work in my budget, why not just keep on it? And then like I was going by the BMI, which I know isn't the best way, but, and then I'm like, oh, I'm no longer obese. I'm just overweight. And then
Mhm.
when I got into, like, I'm no longer overweight, I'm normal weight, but I'm at the high end. So, I
Right,
kind of wanted to go to the middle so that, if I went on vacation and gained 3, 4 pounds, it didn't jump me back up. And then I got there and I'm like, well, okay, let's go 2 more pounds just to make it an even 60.
right,
And
right.
then like I've lost two more in maintenance and, I'm still kind of comfortable there. So, I'm kind of working in like a 5 pound window that keeps me
Sure,
comfortable.
sure. Well, congratulations on that. That's
Thank
fantastic.
you.
I hope to lose another, I'd say 50 pounds is
Hmm.
my goal, but we'll see what happens. Now, as far as what you were saying earlier about the doctors not really giving any guidance or anything, yes, my doctor doesn't really know a lot about this GLP-1 journey for people outside of what she's experienced per patient. What I like to do, my doctor follows my YouTube channel, so she can kind
Hmm.
of keep up on my updates. So she said it helps her too because she can have more information to share with other patients
Hmm.
also. So we're kind of working together to kind of make this thing work and to get more information as we go along. So I try to help out as much as I can with that as far as my experiences go. But it does make it difficult when you don't have guidance.
Right. Yeah. And because like I've talked to a lot of people that are on maintenance, and like I said, we know it's different for everybody. But like
Yeah.
I said, they don't have a thing, like I said, other than stay at your last dose. And it's kind of up to us to decide, do we want to lower it? Do we want to spread it out? And again, people just keep losing because you still have that appetite suppression. And again, if you want to make it a healthy lifestyle, you don't want to eat crap just to so that you don't lose more weight.
Yeah, right, right. For me, yeah, that's going to be interesting. I'll be very happy when I get to a maintenance phase of this journey, but right
I,
now
I'm
still in
happy figuring it out, but it's like, it involves like the most, trial and error type of things. Because, I was just staying on a dose basically until I stopped losing weight for a while, or
the.
the food noise came back, 'cause, I was on five probably for the longest, you know. So that's what I was going by, but there's really, you know no specific thing, set. And like I said, what works for somebody on maintenance might not, and there's people
Right.
are just really getting into maintenance now. The GLP ones are so new, so I'm gonna hope that within the next year they do have some sort of guidelines, or try this, if this doesn't work, try that.
Right, exactly, exactly. Well, I will continue to watch. So because I want to learn about that too, because I will be there at some point. So I'm going to get all the information that I can from you and your guests.
Thank you, thank you. So Have your taste buds changed at all since you've been on the medication?
Absolutely. I actually, what's funny, it's so funny you say that. Last night, my son made popcorn, right?
Mhm.
And he put like this purified butter on it. That's what we used to use when making popcorn. Well, that's what I used to use. He still does. And I went and I said, give me a little cup of that. So he gave me a cup, and it is so overwhelmingly greasy and kind of just, it's just very strange. It's something I used to love to indulge in, but it didn't taste quite as good as it once did. Kind of disappointing. It was kind of like I saddened me sort of, because something I enjoyed so much is no longer, doesn't even taste good to me anymore. Also, I had a little scoop of my son's Rocky Road ice cream the other day, and it just doesn't taste as good as it once did. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing, but it's kind of like you have this feeling in a way. It's so strange of longing, because of these things that you once enjoyed so much. It's kind of like a boyfriend you'll never see again that you still love, kind of like that. So that's kind of how I felt. But yeah, and not only that, things smell different too.
Mhm.
And the way that it affects me is different. It's like I'm indifferent to it. And I'm so grateful because my son is not on a journey. So he still eats and cooks as normal, and all
Mhm.
these smells are kind of just, going through the house and stuff. And it smells good. I recognize that, but it doesn't give me that, oh, I want some. I don't feel like that at all. And that's a blessing within itself.
Yeah, I had a
So,
similar experience with ice cream because, like, when I go on vacation, that's the one thing that I usually treat myself with. But
mhm,
when I used to go on vacation, I used to buy the half gallon and like finish it in a couple days.
me too.
And now, I just get the pint or the individual, little cup size things. And when I first had it, I'm like, wow, this is just like almost disgustingly sweet. I'm like, took the second bite and I'm like, third bite, I'm like, "Oh, I guess I could get used to it." But then again, after like 4 or 5 bites, I was done. So,
Yeah.
that part was good, but, I was able to kind of, re-get the taste for it.
Yeah, isn't that something how that works? And I mean it's a positive without question.
Mhm,
Because now those things that got you to the position you were in no longer taste good. So that's very helpful in your journey because you don't feel like you're missing out by any means. But for me, I try to keep my diet as sugar free
mhm.
as possible. Anytime that there's a sugar that is required in a recipe or anything, I always use artificial sweetener as a substitute.
Yeah, me too.
Anytime. Okay, so right. So what do you use?
I use, Splenda,
Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, and that seems to have I'll have any of them really, but, Splenda does tend to be, I'm sorry, not Splenda, Stevia. Stevia tends to be my favorite.
Me too.
Uh,
Me too.
but,
That is my
and I
that
like
is my
this.
absolute
The
favorite.
one processed food that I have a lot is my protein shake because I'm not a breakfast person. And I know I have to have something, my body's got to say, know something's coming or it's going to like freak out and hold on to calories and stuff.
Yeah.
And, so I get my protein, I get some calcium in there because I use Fairlife milk.
Mm.
And, that's the one processed food I'm just not going to give up. It's everything's moderation.
I agree. Truvia is my sweetener of choice. And I use that in most recipes that require some sort of sweetness. Also, I'll substitute white flour with almond flour instead.
Mhm.
And it works well. Of course, the ratio is not the same, so that takes some getting used to.
Right.
But it all works. And like we said, you can make great food and it be healthy, low calorie, protein high, and it's just you can't beat it. You can't beat it.
One thing that I've noticed with the GLP-1 is like almost every diet that you have, it's like, am I going to be eating raw broccoli and raw cauliflower,
Yeah.
for the whole thing, or I'm just going to have some lettuce if I'm hungry. It's like, no, you're eating regular food. It's just, a little bit healthier choice, a little bit better choice, and a little bit smaller portion, and like I said, I don't consider it a diet. I consider it a lifestyle.
Yes, and you know what? That whole eating lettuce thing and raw broccoli stuff, that's why so many lifestyle changes fail because they feel they're in a box, and that doesn't work for anybody. So you're right. A lifestyle choice, learning good food options, learning what you can do and can eat. It's just it is a journey that I've gotten such a huge benefit from. Also, it's like for me, protein intake is a problem. It is so hard to get to that 100 grams. It's so difficult, especially not eating meat. So that has been a challenge.
Well, there's a lot of seafood that has a decent amount of protein. Do you do protein shakes or anything like that, or is that too processed for you?
No, I will have a protein shake on occasion. If I'm like have an appointment or I'm doing something early in the morning, I might grab a pure protein vanilla
Mhm.
shake. And then I like to put it in the magic blender and add tofu to it and a couple of strawberries or something like that. I'll add a tablespoon of Truvia, and it tastes just like a milkshake from a hamburger stand. It's so delicious. So I will have that quite, maybe once a week, but typically I try to have a breakfast that might consist of two scrambled eggs and a
Mhm.
couple of sprigs of cheddar cheese. I'll, I do that very often. And then for lunch, I'll have maybe some shrimp and a whole zucchini. I like to sear it and then have the shrimp, kind of like a blackened shrimp. I like to put the
Mm.
smoked paprika and that kind of stuff on it. Delicious. And then for dinner, I'll do another seafood, maybe a cod or tilapia or something like that. I tried scallops the other day, and that's definitely a part of my rotation now. So yeah, seafood has tons of protein, but you're not always available to do that kind
Right.
of cooking. Sometimes I try to meal prep completely and actually cook the meal, but I've learned that reheating just doesn't work for me. So, especially with seafood, it kind of gets rubbery.
Probably. Yeah.
So what I do is I'll like buy a whole bag of shrimp. It's like a big bag like that. And I'll thaw it, I'll put it in the bowl and I'll season it all. And then I'll take out 15 shrimp and put them in the little snack bags and put them in
Mm.
the freezer. So I just go and grab one and throw it in the pot when I'm ready to cook something really quick. And that's been working very well for me.
Have you tried them like with zoodles and stuff, or kind of make it like a?
I made the absolute most delicious meal the other day, and it is zoodles with shrimp, but you know how like it's kind of a spin on an Alfredo. And how
Mhm.
I made the Alfredo was with cottage cheese and vegetable broth. And I
Hmm.
put that in the magic blender, and
Mhm.
it's just like Alfredo packed with Parmesan.
Wow, I'll have to
And
try that.
oh my gosh, I actually have a video on my channel on the how to. So that was probably one of my most delicious. But I have been trying eggplant, asparagus, uh, zucchini's my absolute favorite. Cabbage. I mean, every vegetable out there I have on my rotation. So
I'm gonna
egg,
find that video and link it in the description for those of you
absolutely.
that are probably mouth is watering from us talking about this.
It I was surprised at how good it was, to be honest. So that's definitely one of my favorite dishes. But actually they're all good. And like, say for example, eggplant, I made a roasted eggplant the first time. It was not good. That consistency, I was like, yuck. But I said I'm gonna give it one more try. So I made some eggplant medallions, kind of like how you do a fried zucchini, kind of like
Mhm.
that. Absolutely delicious. It takes that sliminess away from it. So I have run across so many delicious recipes that I now have in my rotation of meals that I never get bored.
Do you have a food playlist on your or recipe playlist on your channel?
I do.
Okay, good. I'll have to check it out. Yeah,
It's
I did
called
some
it's called
myself
what it's called
because
what I eat.
okay, I did some myself because again, I eat a lot of seafood, and people were saying, well, I don't know how to cook seafood, and one of my big things, if I want it from refrigerator cooking to plate in like 15 minutes because I work a lot, I get home late, I don't want to spend a lot of time cooking. So,
Hmm.
for me, fish is perfect because it cooks so fast and easy, and it's good for you, and there's plenty of ways to cook it. So
Absolutely.
what is your favorite protein?
Whoopie shrimp is my favorite protein. I eat shrimp almost every day. I'm kind of shrimped out at
Mhm.
this point. But it's quick, it's easy, and it's tasty. But I said I have to start doing something different. And I'm not a salmon person, but I did try this new salmon recipe, which I just uploaded it the other day on my channel. And it's maple glazed salmon with pickled cucumbers and red onion. The absolute best tasting salmon I think I've ever had. And again, I don't like salmon that much, but it was really, really tasty. So, shrimp is my favorite protein to date. Also, I love lentils too.
Mhm.
Lentils are one of my favorite things to kind of play around with and make different things out of it. And it's packed with protein, so that's a great thing.
Right.
And then when I reach for an artificial option, I have the one protein bar. If you guys haven't tried one protein bars, try them. That is a
Okay.
treat. And it is the maple glazed donut. And that you feel like you're eating a Snicker, you really do. It is absolutely delicious. And I order them like by the boxes from Amazon. So I never run out. But yeah, they're very, very good. So I try not to reach for artificial protein as much, but sometimes you just don't feel like it.
Mm, yeah.
You know,
The
it's a
protein's more important,
yeah, yeah,
getting the protein.
So I try to do, all the right things, of course, everything within reason, but sometimes you just want to rest. You don't feel like cooking. You don't feel like going down to the kitchen. So those things come in handy for that. But Lori, I think the thing that I've learned the most in this journey so far is be kind to yourself.
Absolutely.
And I did not realize how unkind I was being to my body. Um, I was feeding my body things thinking that it gave me some sort of emotional pleasure. But in fact, it was contradictory, really, because you're eating in the moment, thinking that it's giving you some sort of dopamine rush, and then 15 minutes later, once it's gone, then you're feeling like crap because you know you shouldn't have eaten that. And if you keep it just on a level where you're doing the right things for yourself by way of what you're putting into your body, then it does positives over here and you don't even realize it. I want to be kind to myself from that
Absolutely.
February 24th forward. And it's not drinking alcohol and it's not eating a whole pint of ice cream 3 times a week, because that's what I used to do. It's not eating 5 carnita tacos, and having a pint of beer, all those things I was doing. Now that I'm not doing those things, I think back on how bad my habits really were
Mhm.
and the damage that I was constantly doing. Because as me, like I said, I'm short. I was extremely morbidly obese. That wasn't good for my heart. I could have taken a couple of weeks off my life or months. Who's to say? But
Right.
definitely it wasn't good for me. So I often sit back and think to myself, why were you doing that to yourself? There's
Mhm.
some sort of other issue that you need to deal with. So I've been on that mental journey also, trying to
Great.
the stuff that got me here in the first place. Everything is not just exterior. Most of it, in fact,
Mhm.
in my
Absolutely.
opinion, is interior. It's your mental, and fixing that has been just as difficult as the exterior.
Mhm.
You have to come to some pretty tough conclusions about yourself and look in the mirror and kind of see what's really there, not what you want to be there, but what's really there. So I've tried my best to do that because I really want to make a 180,
Mhm.
and so I from this day forward I can do it even if for some reason GLP-1 is taken away from me.
Have you been on a vacation since you've been on the medication?
I haven't been on a vacation to, per se, but I have been around like a lot of family members as you would on a vacation. And that was a little bit difficult, especially with the spirits flowing.
Mhm.
But there's so like again, there's so many things that you can eat that you don't have to get off of your program. My family cooked greens and green beans and stuff like that. So I just ate that stuff and not the meat and the desserts and all of those other things, because I'm telling you, my family knows how to do it up right. So it was definitely a test, if you will, but I think I did pretty good. I think I did pretty
That's
good.
great.
Yeah.
So
So
what made you decide to start your YouTube channel?
Lori, when I was doing research to make a decision on what weight loss avenue I wanted to walk down, there were so many helpful channels and
Mhm.
content creators, and I would reach out to them and ask them questions and they would respond, and I got such a warm and fuzzy feeling about it all that
Great
I
community.
it is, isn't it? I love it. I love it so much. And I said that I wanted to help people too. And I wanted to be a part of this community. And I did that. And I'm happy I did. And I was like, oh, I want someone to watch my channel and say, I can do this too, you know?
Mhm.
And I I wasn't really like an on camera kind of person. So I was a little bit hesitant. And at first I was thinking about how can I do it like using AI, right? Like a faceless channel. And I
I
was doing
started
all the,
faceless.
yeah, I was doing all the research on that and stuff. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it, you know? And I did. And I love it. In fact, who
Mhm.
knew? Yeah, I absolutely love it. It's something about just getting on that camera and sharing your experiences with this journey and knowing that you have people watching that are thinking about their starting their journey or currently on it, the camaraderie. It's all been such a positive experience. I'm so
It is.
glad that I decided to journal the process on YouTube. I'm so happy about it.
And I think it feels good to get out of your comfort zone a little bit. It's good mentally. And, it's just a good thing because like I never really talk to people, especially on the internet. And, you
Yeah.
know, it's, like I said, I got out of my comfort zone, and I'm glad I did.
I'm glad you did too. And then too, you
Um,
know what? I was thinking actually, like you deciding to do this, awesome. I think it was an awesome idea. What made you decide to start doing the interviews?
I was interviewed on the Downsized, and I really liked it, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm really, knowledgeable enough to be interviewed. And plus, a lot of people weren't doing interviews, and I'm like, no, we got to bring these experiences so that everybody could see it. And like ever since I was a kid watching Barbara Walters, I always wanted to interview people, and I always think, oh, this would be a good question to ask that person if I ever interviewed them. So it's like it kind of led
That's
one thing
great.
to another, and I like it a little bit more of a conversation than an actual interview. Yes, I ask questions, but I try to have more of a conversation.
It really it really translates well to the viewer. I love it. I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great
Uh,
idea, and I'm so glad you
Thank you,
decided
thank
to
you.
do. Yeah, of course, that you decided to do this. But day by day, GLP-1 journey is a day by day process. You know,
Absolutely.
it's kind of like AA, right? One day at a time. One day at a time. If you get through this day, then start fresh the next day. You might get on the scale, and you might lose it, but one day at a time. That's kind of
Have you
my
run into any
mantra.
stalls or plateaus?
No, I have had
Oh, that's
no
great.
plateaus as of yet. Initially, I thought I had a plateau because I didn't really know the process. And I had stayed the same weight for like 2 weeks and thought that I was on a plateau. And I actually did a video about it. And then, some of the viewers came back and said, that's not really a plateau. A plateau is like weeks upon weeks or months at the same
Mhm.
weight. So I didn't know that. So no, I have not had any
Oh,
plateaus as of yet.
that's great. Um, I had like one, and it was because like I got the next dose because like I tried, I don't really track my food. I do at times just to, keep myself honest because like I tend to eat like the same six or seven things, so I kind of know what it is. But
Right.
when I hit what I think is a stall or just haven't lost in a while, I track just to make sure that I'm keeping myself honest,
Yes.
and that my workout, I'm working out as much as I think I do, although I don't take any calories off for working out because it's I just don't think there's anything accurate with that.
Yeah, and that's
You
a
know,
whole lot of work too.
yeah, but like I'll keep in mind that if I go, 100 calories over, okay, well, I have worked out 3 or 4 times this week, so again, I give myself a little grace on that. So
Yeah.
just to keep myself honest, and then like one thing that somebody told me to try is like just go out to dinner, order whatever you want. Just don't go crazy. You don't have to get cheesecake or anything. Just you know, actually up your calories that way. You know, maybe you're upping your fat and you know, just try that for the day and then go back and see if that makes any difference. I waited like 4 or 5 days and really no difference. So I upped my dose. And like the day I was going to take it, I dropped a pound. So I'm like, oh, no, I'm going to go back to my other dose. Yeah.
Well, I when I was that same weight for like that week or two, when I thought I was on a stall, I did some research about what you can do to break that, and I found research search on, what do you call it? I think it's called calorie cycling or something like that. So I said, huh, that's an interesting concept. So anytime now that I'm at the same weight for days upon days, I'll kick in with that caloric cycling. It works. It does. It really
Uh,
works. So you
It
eat
does.
a little
I've
more.
actually been on it and I kind of practice that a little bit because like, you
Mhm.
know, I'll go 1 or 2 days with as little carbs as I can, you know, just what's in the fruit and vegetables. And then
Yeah.
I'll go like 2 days with, you know, adding some, you know, brown rice or quinoa or, you know, something that has some good carbs. Uh, and one time when I went on it, not on the GLP-1, like they actually had you fasting for a day, which
Mm.
I tried it once and yeah, it didn't really work well because I work so much. So they kind of like, you know, adjusted it for me where like I just fasted till like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Then I had a small lunch and yeah. So I kind
Oh,
of
the
do that once in a
intermittent,
while, but
yeah. Yeah.
I tend to just not the same thing, but like I have like 6 or 7 different um meals for the day and I kind of rotate them a bit. And
It works, doesn't it?
it does, it does. Uh, my biggest problem with that is my wife is also on this, but she's a type 2 diabetic, so and she has COPD, so she can't work out very much.
Okay.
So it's like I don't want to have all the carbs with her because like she can't have that many carbs. So it's like I kind of try to bring them to work and yeah, so adapt a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I I really, really try to watch my carb intake. At the beginning of this journey, I decided I wasn't going to be eating bread and stuff. So I don't eat bread. I don't eat rice, potatoes, nothing like that. And you know what? I don't miss it.
Mm-hmm.
But I've learned how to make bread substitutes,
Mm-hmm.
and that's been a game changer for meal options. So on the weekend, I'll just make 6 to 8 little, like, cottage cheese wrap kind of things, and they work great. So yeah, the carb thing, I really try to stay away from that, outside of what's in the vegetables and stuff, because vegetables have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of carbs too, but
Yeah.
they're complex, right?
Right.
So that's what I like to do. But yeah, Lori, so but as far as weighing goes, how often do you weigh yourself?
I'm a daily weigher. I have to admit that. And sometimes I do it twice a day, in the morning and at night.
Me
And
too.
I'm not upset with myself if you know with all the fluctuation because I understand it. But you know if it keeps up for like 2 3 days, again a little mental note like maybe I should just watch it a little bit just for the next day. You know to just to keep in that range. And again I give myself some grace if I don't because you know like if I put on a couple pounds, you know, again, I'm on maintenance. It's not as big. Even if I wasn't on maintenance, if I put on a pound, I'm not going to cry over it. You know, I'm just going to try to do better, try to figure out what it was that caused that.
Yes.
And you know, it's life, you know, this has to be a lifestyle. It's just, you know, it's going to happen.
I completely agree. That's why I weigh every day too. From the very beginning, I started weighing every day. And I do that because I'm a list person. Okay. I'm a list person. I'm a visual person. I have to see things. So for me, I have like this goal chart, the back of my bedroom door, kind of serves
Hmm.
like a vision board. And I have my short-term weight loss goals, which is in tens. And then my
Hmm.
long-term weight loss goals are in the first 50 and then 25 and then 25. So I look at it every single day. And also, when I go to weigh myself, I go and I note on my board what I was on this day. So I think weighing for daily for me is great. I know some people only weigh once a week and some don't even weigh
Hmm.
like once a month.
Right.
That, I mean, for me, I mean, if it works for you, that's great. But for me,
Uh,
I like to analyze the trend as far as what I'm eating this week, what happened. Do I have some sort of fluid retention or whatever the case? You won't know unless you track. That's how I feel. But I know a
Right.
lot of people, it's just too much and it's not that serious for them. They don't feel they don't have that feeling to need to do that. I have to. I'm obsessed with it.
Some people are triggered by that, because it brings back these old diet memories and, like, they look
Absolutely.
at it very negative.
Well, Lori, listen, I did not weigh myself for years. Okay. And you see that phlegm thing? I have that all day. But that's probably why I gained so much weight, because I was not aware of how much I was really gaining. Because you see yourself in the mirror every day. So it comes on
Mhm.
gradually. You don't really know. Your pants are a little bit tighter than they once were, or, you can't really zip that jacket up like you once were able to, but you don't think it's that big of a deal until you get on the scale and then you're shocked. Let me tell you what happened to me. And I felt sick to my stomach. I went out into my front yard to go get the mail. And I never look at my Ring camera, Lori, never. But this particular day, I looked at my Ring camera and I saw myself from the back. I was horrified. I was horrified. I had no idea how big I had really gotten. And my body, to me anyway, looks normal from the front. My body gains weight in the back, like across my back and my butt. I was a wide load, Lori, and didn't even realize it. I was thinking, oh, this is what people are seeing when they look at me. So now I go out on the Ring camera on purpose because I want to look and see how I look now. But yeah, I'm so happy that I decided to take this journey. But it has anybody who's out there who's contemplating starting your weight loss journey, I cannot recommend it enough.
Just do it. Forget about what other people say. Don't worry about the side effects. You could be prepared. You could have some Imodium in the house if you need it. You could have some Pepto-Bismol. Just, it's really not that bad. And if it doesn't work for you, just stop.
Just stop. And you know what, and Lori, you bring up a really important point when you say just be prepared for the side effects, because that's something that I did, because I heard so many people talk about constipation, talk about nausea, fatigue, and all these other things. So fatigue and stuff, you have to just kind of wait and see if that happens to you. But constipation, I started out when I first started my first dose of Zepbound, I started drinking a small glass of prune juice every night before I go to bed, right? But I'd heat it up because it's more palatable that way for
Right.
me. And I started doing that every single night, and I didn't have any constipation issues. Okay. But then I had an incident where I was feeling a little constipated. I had to think about, okay, did I have a movement yesterday? I had to think about it, and I was like, okay, so I'm beginning to have a problem, I think. So I talked to my aunt on the phone, and you know, they have all these old school remedies. And she said, take a tablespoon of castor oil. And I did that. If you're having an issue, that'll clear it right on. That'll clear it right up. So I keep castor oil on deck just in case, but I try to eat enough roughage with vegetables to make sure I keep things moving. And because the majority of my meal is 75% vegetables with 25% protein, it moves right along. But you know, sometimes your body just gets stuck. It does. And if that happens, that castor oil will do you just right.
Hydration. Are you a plain water drinker, or do you have to put something in it, or
I love water, just plain ice water. But hydration has been kind of an issue. For some reason, it's just not in the forefront of my thoughts. You know, I don't know what it is about the
yes.
GLP-1, but it just,
It,
I
it
don't
also
even,
suppresses your desire to drink water.
and it certainly does, because I don't think about it. So what I have to do is I have this tall thermos, kind of like a Stanley cup, but it's
Hmm.
not a Stanley cup. I wouldn't dare spend that
Right.
kind of money, but it's about this tall, 64 ounces, but I put ice in it. So of course, you know, it kind of takes away from the fluid, but I have to have it somewhere in my view of sight and make sure, oh yeah, let me drink something. And I have committed to, instead of sipping 2 or 3 sips, I commit to at least 10 sips anytime I grab for the water. So and that's something my dietitian told me. Okay. So
Mhm.
that has really been helpful, but it's been a struggle. Keeping up my 100 grams of protein and water has been a struggle for me. I typically try to drink as much as I can, but again, I just don't think about it. So if I'm out in the backyard doing something or at work busy, I don't think about it, and before I know it, 6 hours have passed by and I haven't had not one sip of water.
Hmm.
But again, that's another part of constipation, right? As long as you're keeping
Right.
your body hydrated, it helps keep moving things along. But I have to think about it. I have to think about it. But I'm doing the best I can.
That's all we could ask. So,
Yeah, that's what we
are
can
there
do.
any closing things you want to say? Because I don't want to keep you all day.
Oh gosh. Well, like I said earlier, guys, I know taking something like this can be scary. I've seen lots of people concerned with the side effects and things of that nature. However, if you don't do anything about you being overweight or obese, or in my case, morbidly obese, those side effects will be far more detrimental than something like GLP-1. Of course, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical professional by any means, but I was on a road of destruction. So for me, the GLP-1 risk is far benefit compared to what I know is coming by doing nothing.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure, and hopefully we could do like a 6 week or an eight week follow-up interview to see how you're doing.
Yeah, that would be awesome, Lori. I would definitely enjoy that. Something I want to say too is that this whole new Wegovy thing. So my 6 month or 8 month, you know, check in with you. I'll
That
let
that'll
you
be
know.
interesting to find out.
Yeah, I'll definitely keep you updated on that,
Awesome.
because it's a scary thing, but we'll see, guys. We'll see what happens.
And good luck on your weight loss. Good luck on your channel. You don't really need luck. It's a great channel. Again, I'll have the
Oh, thank
links in the
you.
description, the links to the shrimp Alfredo, however you call it there. I'll have that in the description.
Yeah.
Again, Please like and subscribe this channel, and go to Life According to Self, like, subscribe. It's a great community. Let's all support each other.
Yay. Bye, you guys.
Bye.